My name is Elizabeth Tredo, and this here is Alice, and we're here to talk to you today about keeping ball pythons as pets. Now, snakes over the years have gained quite the bad reputation as animals, but they're actually extremely good pets if you have the time and dedication to take care of one properly. Now, ball pythons specifically only get to be about 5 feet long, so they stay relatively small for a snake and are easy to handle throughout their entire lifetime. Also, they're extremely clean animals and require very little cage maintenance to thrive in captivity. Also, because you only have to feed a ball python once a week, their food costs stay relatively low. Now, for housing, since ball pythons are not very active snakes at all, you can keep a smaller cage, which is very good for beginner snake owners. A 10 to 20 gallon tank is good for a smaller ball python, and when they get bigger, they'll usually graduate to about a 30-gallon tank maximum. Now, substrate to line the cage needs to be absorbent because ball pythons do require a lot of humidity to shed. Perfect substrates would be anything from cypress mulch, which is the best, to newspaper if you're not concerned greatly with display value. A lot of people will recommend AstroTurf, but it can be very rough on a snake's scales and injure them as they get older. Now, a temperature for a ball python is very important. They need a hotter temperature so they're not good in colder climates. 81 to 85 degrees is perfect during the day, but you need to keep them a little cooler, around 79 degrees at night. Now, humidity, as I said before, is extremely important. Ball pythons, to shed properly and grow, need about 50 to 60% humidity rating in their cage. You can keep track of this by buying a humidifier, or you can take simple precautions such as misting down their cage at least once every other day. Also, substrate that absorbs water is very important. Now, a lot of reptiles require specific lighting when you're keeping them in captivity. However, ball pythons are nocturnal and require no special lights in their cage. Also, in their cage they need several different types of furnishing. Ball pythons tend to be arboreal, which means they like to climb, so a branch is always necessary. Also, they like a low, dark hiding spot to shed in because they don't like being exposed to the light when they're shedding. Now, feeding is very important for a ball python as they only eat meat, specifically mice and other rodents. A ball python will only get up to a feeding size of about a small rat. Also, when feeding mice, it's important to realize that mice can and will injure a snake, so it's important to consider using either pre-killed or frozen mice. Frozen mice make feeding extremely easy on the owner because you don't have to go out and buy new mice every week. You can buy them in bulk and keep them in an outside refrigerator. Frozen mice, however, only stay good for about a month, so it's important to gauge how much you are buying. Now, a young ball python, about up to a month, will eat a small mouse called a hopper, which is barely past baby age. A ball python about this size, which is nearly an adult, will already be eating a small rat. Now, ball pythons as eaters tend to be rather finicky with their eating. It's not at all uncommon for a ball python to refuse to eat for months on end. If you don't notice any significant drop in weight or shriveling of the scales, it's perfectly alright to let them fast. It's something they do in the wild when they're not feeling well. If you do, however, notice that your ball python is losing weight rapidly, you should use a few simple tricks to get them to eat. Some of the things I've found that work very well are using different colored mice, or dipping them in chicken or beef broth. This usually gets them to strike rather easily. If you're feeding fresh killed and your snake refuses to eat, you may want to invest in a pair of feeding tongs and kind of bounce the mouse in front of the snake, and this entices them to strike it. Also, it's very important when using frozen mice to make sure that you've thought it all the way through because they will not eat anything that is cold inside. It messes with their vision and they can't see the body properly, and they'll usually just spit it out once they've striked it. Ball pythons can be a little finicky when they're eating, and sometimes it is necessary to use hamsters to get them to eat. I know it sounds a little strange, but for some reason ball pythons can't resist the taste of a hamster. Ball pythons are good pets, and despite what people think, they're actually very loving animals. They will allow you to sit and stroke them for hours on end, and they'll gladly curl around you when you're reading or playing a game. Ball pythons are the perfect pet for anybody willing to put in the care that's needed for them, and I would strongly recommend them for anybody who's in for a rewarding experience raising a pet. Thank you very much for your time.